Hello and welcome to the 100th episode of the NBA Outlet, presented by OTGBasketball.com. I'm your host, Nick Fay. With me from the start of OTG, my guy, Kory Waldron. How we feeling on episode 100, Kory?
Just keep it 8 more than 92 with me, 100. We're here, episode 100. Personally, I want to thank you. I remember when we sat down and we talked about Off the Glass. We were brainstorming and everything, and this all came together. And at that point in time, I didn't know what I wanted to be in school. And, from, making this website and working with you on OTG and doing the podcast, I actually figured out what I wanted to do with my career and going forward in life. So, Off the Glass has been a great opportunity for me as a person to grow. And I'm happy that we're at episode 100, and I can't wait for 200.
I really appreciate that, Kory. I'm happy to help you in any way. I'm happy to record the 100th episode with you specifically. We've done a ton of pods. Obviously, this is officially episode 100, but over the last year, we probably recorded 100 pods alone with previews, express episodes, trades, all types of stuff. It's been a ton of fun. And like you said, I remember sitting at that table eating hamburgers and hot dogs, trying to come up with a name for OTG basketball. We went with Off the Glass. And, just seeing everything come to fruition, we have 30 writers now, 9 podcasts, starting to get some recognition on NBA Twitter and the NBA world. It's been great, and I'm really happy to record this 100th episode. And I felt like the best way to do this was to just bring on a ton of guests, bring on guys who have helped and contributed to the site and to the podcast. And just a shout out to everybody who is not going to be on the pod, who, specifically Parth Garadia, who helped me come up with the NBA Outlet idea. Shout out to him, and shout out to everybody who listens every week, and anybody who's, put any type of work, been a guest on the pod, and even the people who don't like the pod. Let us know. I don't care. Rate us, review us on iTunes. We're here to stay. But like I said, we're going to get started with our guest today. So bringing on our first guest today, somebody who helped me start my podcasting career, a good friend of mine, Harris Wichard. What's up, Harris?
What's going on, Nick? What's up, Kory? Honored to be on the 100th pod today. When you sent me that, I was excited. I remember that email I sent back in March of 2015, and the development, the progress you've made, and just looking at the site, taking a look at it today, just giving you guys a ton of credit. And I know you guys work extremely hard, so it's an honor to be on today.
You're my arch enemy, so I'm always happy to have you on too.
The OTG family of Kory, and that he's a big Pacer fan, and that I like to disagree with on Twitter just to mess with him. But he like Nick is one of my favorite NBA Twitter follows.
Thank you, Harrison. Appreciate that love. And obviously you helped start the OTG podcast. Like you said, sending me that email. We started podcasting back then. Later on, next thing you know, created the NBA Outlet a year later. And here it is, episode 100. It's been a great ride and a lot of development along the way. So, Harris, I wanted to bring on his topic today. Everybody who's coming on, every guest is going to kind of bring their own topic. I want to talk a little bit about the OTG pods, obviously Harris being a big part of that. But we're going to talk about our 3 favorite non-All-Stars to watch. So you want to start us off, Harris?
Yeah, I have a couple that are going to be borderline All-Stars and then 3 guys that just aren't. So because I know I obviously want to give Sweet Lou some love down there in LA. I saw something interesting today. Someone tweeted this. The Clippers are 2 games over 500 and had a 9-game losing streak in there. And that's really rare, I think, for a first half of the season. He's got career highs across the board. He had a lot of weight on his shoulders with Griffin out. So he's going to be a borderline guy, but I just think he's been a ton of fun to watch this year.
No, Lou Williams, definitely. I mean, the impact, it goes, you can't even begin to say the impact he's had on the Clippers. The last recent stretch, too, where he's averaging 31 points per game. He had that 50-point game against the Warriors. The guy is just an offensive explosion at all times. My first guy would be Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Because that kid is just fantastic to watch. And he's, we talked about on the last podcast about how bad Ricky Rubio has been. And Ricky Rubio has been so bad, but no one talks about it because Donovan Mitchell has been so good that you kind of just forget that certain guys aren't playing well. Like Rudy Gobert hasn't even played much of this season, and you just don't really think about it because Donovan Mitchell has been so captivating.
Yeah, for sure. Like Lou Will and not only is Lou Will lighting it up and helping the Clippers, win games, he's actually fun to watch. He's consistently hitting tough shots all over the place. Then Donovan Mitchell, he'll be on my list later on. But number 1 for me is my guy, Caris LeVert. He's really coming to his own this year. Playmaking ability, he definitely makes his teammates better, and it's almost a guarantee he's going to hit Jared Allen for a dunk every time he's on the floor.
Yeah, I wanted to know if you were going to have 2 nets or 3 nets in your top three. No, I actually, you know me, I went to that net Raptor game, and I'm just really impressed by his development. He's one of the Nets I really like. But the thing about Lou is, like, you talk about guys like, oh, this is you hear this all the time. You hear like, oh, he's a professional scorer. Like, I feel like you hear that a lot with him, but he's never averaged 20 in a game. He's been that like reserve Jamal Crawford type role, and to see him blossom into this role where he has to be that main guy. He's never played 30 minutes a game. He's doing that this year. So like, I just like to see, and he's like what, like 32, 30. I feel like he's 10 years into his career. He's been around since like '05. So I just like when guys that have to take on that responsibility and they're over 500. You know, so you talk about like non-All-Star guys, and usually it's teams that are out of the playoffs. This team has a chance to make the postseason.
Just to piggyback off that, he's been around for so long, and he's a guy who doesn't have a lot of size to him, and he still has never really struggled. You know, we normally see guys with his size kind of struggle the older they get, and he's actually getting better the older he gets.
Yeah, it doesn't look 30. I think he's 32. He came out of high school. It's like 32, 30. He doesn't look that. He doesn't move that way for sure.
No, and he's already had a major ankle surgery or knee surgery. I know when he was with the Hawks. Yeah, Achilles. Yeah. And you would never know. Yeah, you would never know.
Yeah, but what do you got on the rest of your list, Harris?
Oh, and I'm going to put Lauri Markkanen in there. The kid from Chicago, because I think when you talk about like the Bulls have given the Knicks 3 L's, so I shouldn't probably have any of those guys on. But no, when you talk about like the European guys, like sometimes they come over with this like reputation of being soft, but this cat has a little bit of a swagger to him though. I like what stretches the floor, does go inside, tough, rugged, not as soft, like I said, as some Europeans that could really shoot it, and then broke the 3-point record that what's his name, Lillard had, where he's the quickest guy to 100 threes. I think like 40 something games, which is astonishing.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite rookies coming out of college, actually. I'm not sure why. I always saw comparisons between him and obviously like Porzingis and Nowitzki. He's just a stretch four. And my only concern with him was defense. And, he may not be the greatest defender, but he's certainly not as slow on his feet as I expected. And he's really active. I mean, he's got a very good basketball IQ for a rookie. And like you mentioned, Harris, on the offensive end, the kid's already pretty fearless.
Mm-hmm. Who's next for you, Kory?
Oh, for me, my next guy is another Chicago Bull, Chris Dunn.
Yeah, I was gonna think about that. Yeah.
From rookie to sophomore year, I don't think there's been a bigger surprise. He only averaged 3.7 points per game last year. He's averaging 13.6. Last year, everyone thought he was going to be a dud. They still traded Jimmy Butler for him, and in a bigger role. I mean, this kid fills up a stat sheet. He gets rebounds, he gets blocks, he gets assists, he gets steals. He does a little bit of everything. He took that scary fall the other night, which was really hard to watch, but. He plays with a lot of intensity, and I'm really looking forward to what Lauri, Chris Dunn, and Levine can all be together when they're all on the floor.
And that's a team that started like 3-20, and then all of a sudden, like they had that incident where who got knocked out. Somebody got, I think
Mirotic
knocked out Portis or something.
By Portis. No, Mirotic got knocked out by Portis.
Yeah, that was the start. That was a sign of things to come with the 15 fights we've seen the last 3 days, but. No, but listen, the Bulls could be exciting, and they have the potential after, like I said, losing 20 of their first 23.
Yeah, they definitely are turning things around. Like you said, if they don't turn things around, we're not talking about these guys being exciting, and there's not as much hype, and things are looking a lot better in Chicago than they did in the offseason. So props to them, and that trade's even looking better. Like Kory said, Chris Dunn has really stepped up. My second guy is going to be somebody Kory already picked, though, Donovan Mitchell. He's just an exciting kid. Even watching him last night, he can just do a little bit of everything. Just the ability to be so effective and be so small and score on all dynamics of the game is pretty impressive, especially from a rook that wasn't drafted in the top 10.
100%. Yeah, he's and I watched him last night. I watched that Knick game last night, and even what's impressive about him is most young guys when they shoot 1 of 10 to start the game mentally check out, and he didn't do that. He stayed in it down the stretch, made plays, got to the rim. Defensively, obviously we know about his athleticism. Even though he missed the wide open dunk yesterday, he should probably be in the dunk contest, and that would be exciting to watch.
He's just so fearless. I think that's one thing you can say about almost every rookie in this draft class, or at least the top 8 rookies of this draft class. A lot of them came in and immediately are making impacts, and all of them, for the most part, they're not scared of these big moments. I mean, Mitchell in particular. I mean, he's already had, I think, 5 30-point games. The kid's just. And like you said, Harris, he started off slow last night, and most rookies kind of they get like you said, they check out, and he just it's just all right. Well, if I keep shooting, eventually I'll start hitting shots, and that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, and I knew there were going to be some rookies that we named, and that we talk about the draft class. I don't know if there's going to be that one because people are saying like, oh, let's compare it to all because people are like, oh, let's compare it to this draft class, the 04 draft class, the 96 draft. I don't know if there's going to be those like super duper stars, but there's just it's deep though. They have this could be like a 7 or 8 perennial all-star draft class.
Oh, for sure, Harris. That's a great point. I don't think these guys are like LeBrons and Chris Pauls, but these are definitely – I could see a lot of these guys being the second or third option on a team, like a contending team.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. Harris, who's your third pick before we get out of here?
I want to shout. I think he's gonna. I don't know what you guys think if Booker's gonna be in, and I know me. And,
I don't think he'll be an all-star this year.
And Nick have gone back and forth. So if we could all agree that he's not, I don't know how you don't mention him. I mean, he just looks so polished right now. I know that's a Phoenix team that's not going to win any games, and they don't play any defense. Might be the worst defensive team in the league, but I mean Booker people forget this guy's 22. Obviously, the 70-point game last year, and then he's averaging 25. And just the effortless, the difficulty of some of the shots that he's making, and the year you could tell the guys that are really they get up to play the superstars and the all-stars in this league. He's one of them. And anytime he's on national TV, I feel like he's playing well. I think he's going to be an all-star next year. I don't know. Eventually, he has to be. But then you see Lillard fall into that category of being on the brink every year. I think Booker's going to break through. I think he's got more talent.
Yeah, Devin Booker's big time. Obviously, his Phoenix sucks, so you kind of forget. And he always puts up big numbers, and you can kind of say they may be a little bit, inflated because there's not a ton of talent around him. But there's no question that once they get some solid pieces around him, Booker's going to be a solid scorer, probably a top 10 scorer in this league for years to come.
Kory, who's your third guy?
My third guy, I had to pick a Pacer just because we have to do this.
Well, Oladipo's in, so
no, right? No. So I'm thinking Lance Stevenson.
Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah, you gotta go Lance Stevenson.
I gotta go Lance, and obviously the play on the court is up and down. He's only shooting like 30% from three. He has had some double doubles where he's gotten like 14 rebounds and etc. But Lance Stevenson is always like a highlight guy, anyways, because we know his antics and how he's always like when they played the Cavs recently, he was in LeBron's face like usual, doing usual Lance Stevenson antics. And there's probably not very many guys who are more entertaining to play, like watch play, who don't make a huge impact on the actual game of basketball like Lance.
LeBron's comment the other day was funny. He goes, and this is something that I know I'm not going to get into LeBron Michael and like where he is in the all-time greats, but like you would never even hear Kobe say this. Like LeBron goes, like you were in class when you make the kid who makes the joke and then the guy who laughs at it gets in trouble. Like LeBron, like people say like LeBron, like a Lance. I would never say like, oh, he's really in his head, but sometimes I'm thinking like, what is this guy even paying any attention to it? Like he almost like. To me, he almost kind of like feeds into it, and that's Lance at his finest when he's doing the shimmy shakes and he's getting the crowd involved, and he's, he's carved out a nice niche again in Indiana, his second stint, right?
Yeah, yep, second stint, and the only player that really he gets under the skin of is LeBron, like you said. It's funny.
Yeah, it is kind of funny.
Hey, whatever works for the Pacers. And my third guy before we get out of here, Sean Livingston. Some love to him. Kind of reminds me of myself when I'm on the court. Can't shoot the 3-ball, but I can shoot mid-range, inside, got a little post game. So Sean's always fun to watch. And he's rare to see a point guard that can't shoot and be so effective.
Yeah, and I like that you compared yourself to him because I play, we play in college, and people ask me like my NBA comparison. I said, listen, compared to an NBA guy, I'd be in the NBA. I don't have an NBA comparison. I'm not comparing myself to any NBA player.
NBA Harris. But that wraps it up for Harris. Harris, we appreciate you coming on, all the love and support you've given OTG, the NBA outlet, and everything. We'll definitely have you on another episode and talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Good luck with the rest of the episode. I'd be on here all day if I could. Enjoy the games. Some good games today. Enjoy the game.
Enjoy your wedding, Harris. Have a great day, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I got my cousin's wedding. I got to go get ready for it. But thanks for having me on, guys.
Big shout out to Harris for coming on. But next, another guest for us, Jesse Corwin, host of Celtics Express, big part of the OTG podcast network. What's up, Jesse?
How we doing, guys? Good to be on.
What's up, J-Man?
And who am I talking to? Oh, that's Kory. What's up, dog?
What's up, man?
How you doing?
Jesse gives us Celtics Express on the OTG podcast network, like I said. So we're going to get some Boston flavor on this pod a little bit, and he's going to give us his case for Jayson Tatum for Rookie of the Year. So, Jesse, shoot.
Oh, man, this is like I'm in court right now. Okay. Well, I present to you these arguments. Jayson Tatum, I mean, he's been awesome. This rookie class, it's tough to, I mean, there hasn't been a debate like this in a long time. This rookie class, any one of these like top 4 or 5 guys could have gone in many recent years. So obviously we're talking Ben Simmons, Tatum, Mitchell, some other guys sneaking in there. You guys, Lauri Markkanen's been lately as well. And, you know, you got your Lonzo Ball lovers, of course, on the West Coast, nowhere on the real radar as far as that goes. I'm taking Kyle Kuzma over him. He's been awesome as well. What a class for them coming in. Dennis Smith Jr., he's been a ton of fun to watch. He's got the second best usage rate of all the guys. The top guy is Mitchell there. He's been awesome. So for this argument, you start to think about, you know, when you talk about MVPs and stuff, it's always, you know, whose team is best. What kind of role are they serving on that team, et cetera. Different people have different criteria. For me, Rookie of the Year is more of an isolated thing, an individual performance. But I do think some of that does play into it. You know, Mitchell's in Utah, who is terrible, but he is playing a huge role for them. He's basically their best player. His spot-up shooting is top 10% in the league. This past week, more than 30 points a game. He's been awesome, but team's not that great. Jayson Tatum, Ben Simmons playing for really good teams. Simmons carrying his team now, like, you know, they made a pretty good run over the past couple of weeks, 7 of 8 games. I think they've won or something. And all spot. So, gentlemen, if the playoffs started today, it would be Celtics Sixers in the first round. And damn if that wouldn't be pretty entertaining. For a first-round matchup there. I'm sure the Celtics wouldn't like to see that. 3-1 on the season series between those two. With Ben Simmons, he's played a huge role. He's basically, you know, probably their second-best player behind Joel Embiid. His numbers, ridiculous. Pretty much never been done. His 17 points, I think 8 boards, more than 7 assists, 21 or younger. First player since who, Kory? Magic Johnson. That's
what?
Right. Yeah, exactly. so he's, you know, at ease, soldier. So he's been good. So Jayson Tatum, I mean, watching him on a night in, night out basis, I don't think there's anyone you can find who won't say this guy's going to be a superstar and they want him on their team. I think you can question him a bit because of his assertiveness. I think, like in this last game with the Sixers, I think he took only like 11 shots. Celtics were getting trounced most of that game. That's a game. Kyrie's out. You'd like to see him take control a bit more. So I think some of that, but he's shooting 46% from deep. There's something called a quantified shooting impact, which basically they take into account kind of how much pressure's on you, how much time's left on the shot clock, what kind of defense you're playing. He's plus 15 against an average NBA player. 3-point ball there. Second only in the league to Mirotic and Klay Thompson, who are obviously, you know, who's laughing?
Wait, did you say Mirotic? Is he really number 2 on that list?
Yeah.
I didn't know that he was second on the list. That's funny.
Yeah, so, you know, one of those select stats, but I'm making my case for Tatum here. So I think I don't know. I haven't checked the 3-point like leaders lately, but I think he's leading the league. I think the 46%.
I think second.
Okay, so. You know, either way, that's like incredible from a rookie who's seeing a lot of starts. He's seen, you know, you go into the league and all of a sudden, you know, you're kind of expecting one thing. You show up to work and they're like, oh, you know, you're just going to be collating some papers today. And all of a sudden, you know, you're heading up a huge project because Gordon Hayward broke his ankle. And so now you're on the starting line. And, you know, he's done an unbelievable job. His defense coming in was put to question, I think, a little bit. But I think he's silenced those problems. His length has been unbelievable, both offensively, defensively. But again, you know, I think he could be a bit more assertive. I don't think he's taken more than 15 shots all year. And, you know, you just love to see a game where he takes, you know, 20, 25 shots and lights it up. But he's been awesome. So Jayson Tatum for Rookie of the Year, you know, you can't go wrong. To me, it's a toss-up between him and Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to a lot of what you just said. He's definitely in the conversation. We mentioned it before with Harris just now. this has been one of the first draft classes in recent memory where like every rookie is making an immediate impact. And like you mentioned, with Hayward going down, Tatum at just 19 years old was forced to play for one of the most, organizations in all the NBA and play big time minutes on a team that's, possibly going to be in the NBA Finals this year. The load on the rookies, the load on his shoulders coming into this season, I think are obviously bigger than Ben Simmons because no other rookie has championship aspirations like the Celtics do.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, when your tagline is "Trust the process," it doesn't seem like there's a lot of pressure on you to perform right away for sure.
Exactly. The Celtics last year obviously went to the Eastern Conference Championship game. The Sixers didn't even make the playoffs, so any type of 500 season would be a success for them. I think the impressive thing with Tatum, like you've mentioned, Jesse, is the fact that he's fitting in so well, being so efficient on such a good team. The Celtics have the best record in the East. He's second in the league in three-point shooting, 8th in the league in defensive rating, and he's shooting almost 50% from the field. And he's still putting up 13 points. And the fact that he kind of did it as a surprise, going to the season, I didn't necessarily expect a ton from him because Gordon Hayward's going to be there, but Hayward's down and he just pops right up. I think he definitely has got himself deeper in the conversation than originally earlier in the season. And Ben Simmons has cooled off a little bit. Donovan Mitchell's kind of got himself in there. For me right now, I think it's a 3-person race.
Yeah, Tatum's just so – I'm sorry, I'm going to let you go, Kory. But
no, go ahead.
Tatum is just so smooth, like optically, guys. He's like to me, growing up, my favorite guy was Scottie Pippen. So to me, he's like kind of a throwback to a Scottie Pippen and Grant Hill when he was really good coming out of college. In a day and age where we see guys really successful like James Harden, Donovan Mitchell to me has a lot of James Harden when he's in the lane. He's herky-jerky. He's got the strong frame. He's a good shooter from outside. He finishes strong, really strong guy. Yeah, all that stuff. And, Ben Simmons is one of those new kind of hybrid, really tall, aside from Magic Johnson, back in the day, there weren't a lot of guys, like that. And so Ben Simmons, new school players, but Jayson Tatum, just so smooth and classic, his footwork, his post work, he's been really fun to watch.
One more thing I just want to say, he's been also a really good rim protector for the Celtics. For a team that lacks size. And he had 6 blocks right against the Nets. But it seems like almost, at least recently, it seems like whenever I see a Jayson Tatum highlight, it's been him blocking the crap out of somebody. And I don't know. The Celtics need rim protection, and it's really good that Tatum is kind of perceiving or providing some of that.
Okay, yeah, and one more thing is, to me, do you put a chink in Ben Simmons' resume because it's he's a redshirt rookie, if you will. And to me, a season even being on the bench, learning the NBA way, you have a house already, you're acclimated to that pay scale, the travel schedule, all that kind of stuff. There's something to that. So
one more thing to that, Jesse, you also get a year with an NBA training staff already too. He got 2 off seasons with the NBA training staff.
It's your first day at work versus your second day at work, which is a big difference. So there's something to that, but don't forget back in 1995, Jason Kidd, Grant Hill, co-rookies of the year. So
we could see it again.
I honestly, I would say I think that's what's going to happen. Given how the NBA plays, I think that's what's going to happen. It's all about. Why not? It's just more accolades for everyone. Everybody's happy.
Yeah,
I like that.
Definitely. It definitely could happen. I think the one thing that maybe would hurt Tatum's case would be that he has really good teammates. And like we mentioned, the Jazz aren't necessarily super talented. Gobert's been banged up, and Simmons has Embiid, but not every single game. And then the other guard playing Philly is kind of bad. So I think that's the one kink on him where Simmons has that, that he's had the 1 year off. And then Mitchell just needs to kind of get his team a little bit better in the playoff race to kind of get back in the conversation, get higher. But
well,
Jesse,
Nick, I don't have to tell you before you cut me off. Nick, I don't have to tell you. I hear the music coming, but TJ McConnell's been sick for the 76ers, actually. Yeah. So, he's the kind of guy for me like Cavaliers need if they really want to get back on track. Somebody like that. But yeah, appreciate you having me. Jayson Tatum, Rookie of the Year, Celtics Express. Look us up, and appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, Jesse, thank you for hopping on, and thank you for Celtics Express. Definitely check out his podcast. He drops it, a couple times a week. Everything Celtics, brings on some great guests too. All right, big shout out to Jesse for hopping on, but we got another guest to talk esports, Kyle Zwiazek. And Kyle does a lot of esports articles for OTG. They've been great. And if you don't know, esports NBA 2K League is about to be a big deal. So we got Kyle on here to talk about that. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm doing great. Pleasure to be here today. Had some technical difficulties, but we're rolling through now.
We're keeping it 100.
Yeah, that's it.
But to get started, Kyle, kind of just tell the fans, the listeners, like, what is, the esports NBA 2K League? Like, what is it? What can fans expect from it?
So basically, this is kind of a dream come true for video game fans. I mean, a lot of us have been playing these basketball video games for a long time. I mean, I remember playing them when I was young, and I think one of the first games I really got into is NBA Courtside 2002. I was playing as like Michael Jordan as on the Wizards and stuff. So what we have going on here is really an opportunity for gamers who maybe aren't the best basketball players out there to kind of go pro in a sport. And it's so there's 17 teams confirmed right now, and that's going to be for this upcoming season. But if the league takes off, I can only imagine that the rest of the league, the NBA, is going to get teams involved. And so 17 teams, you can go online, you could play. You have to get 50 wins in the Pro-Am, which is like their professional kind of league that they're starting up now. You drop in, you play games, random people each time, and if you get 50 wins, you can go to the combine. So the combine is going to be February. So you have until the end of January to get this going, and and then from there, these teams are going to pick players, and we're going to have a draft. So it's going to be pretty cool.
That's sick. I actually know a lot of people on Twitter that are doing this. Like they've been tweeting their wins on their road to 50 wins. And I was wondering why everyone's like tweeting their my player. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So honestly, I think the best way to get noticed is to just tweet out and market yourself, because there's going to be tons of people that are trying to actually get wins and get to this point. But there's only 85 slots, I think it is. So, you really got to get known and get a following behind you, because, who else is going to know about you,
Yeah. And Twitter is a great place to do that. Obviously, Twitch, streaming your games and stuff. It's really interesting. Like, how many people do you think are going to end up being at the combine? Like, so at the I don't know if they've released any of this information. So, like, what are you going to do at the combine? Like, shoot and just do drills with your player, and then they're going to be like, oh, well, I like the way this guy moves or the way he handles himself?
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of information out there yet on the combine, but so how the My Player game works is you have training sessions that you go through. So there's different shooting drills and passing drills and defense drills. So I can imagine that it's going to be like that. But here's the thing that they haven't made clear either, is if it's going to be an in-person combine or if it's going to be an online thing. I mean, you got to think there's got to be hundreds, thousands of people that get 50 wins. You're not going to have all of them at the combine.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting, and it'll be kind of cool to see how many people really get involved in like the kind of hype, because I mean, esports in general have taken a huge jump. You see people on TV making a ton of money, or just the known people on Twitter and stuff. So it's definitely cool. I mean, I'm definitely intrigued to see how many of all the teams, hop on next year.
Right. Yeah. I think in 5 years, you'd have all 30 NBA teams. I mean, you really have to see where it's going to go money-wise. If they're making money off this and people are interested in it, then these teams are going to hop on right away. But, it really comes down to, do people really want to watch other people play video games?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, but the surprising thing is, I think people actually do. Especially, I think I'd be intrigued by the format of the way they play games, because I think the trash talk would definitely be an element that would attract people.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, just in my own online playing, it's been a lot of trash talk so far, which it's fun. But you also have to think about, from a marketing perspective and a fan perspective, is you don't want there to be too much trash talk, because if people are cursing and saying bad things to each other, then it gets a little rough, and then you can't have kids watching and stuff. So trash talk is good, but they got to make sure they tone down their language a little bit.
Yeah,
and you're gonna want characters. Like you're gonna want the like the Lance Stevenson of
Joel
2K.
Embiid.
Yeah, like the people that make a scene that go a little bit out of the ordinary. I definitely think those kind of guys will stick out more too.
Oh yeah. I mean, and what's great about it too is these players are customizable. I mean, you could really make them look any way you want them to look. So you're gonna have these wild looking players out there, and if they're doing street ball moves or whatever they're doing, it's going to be entertaining. It could be more entertaining than some of the basketball that we watch,
Yeah, for real. I mean, 2K can be really fun, and then some of the basketball games are under 80 points where you might watch a 2K game and they'll just be lighting it up, shooting threes, dirty dribble moves, crossovers all over the place. So, but Kyle, you are trying to get the 50 wins yourself, correct?
Yeah, I'm trying. It's unfortunately with my schedule, it's tougher to get the time to play the game as much as I'd like. But yeah, I'm trying. I'm not getting anywhere close to where I want to be because so how I always played my sports video games was I would always do the franchise. So I'd like to play GM. I'd be the guy that makes trades. I'm getting LeBron on my team somehow, and so I really kind of just started this my player thing the beginning of January. So I'm trying to get my player up to the level that I can start winning actually online, because I played a game when my player was 60 overall and everybody else was 90, and I looked bad.
Well, I think that's the thing too, is like you actually have to put in work to get your player up. So like that's another interesting thing. So like obviously people who have already put in work for my player and they have a someone who might be 98, 99 overall, they're at a huge advantage to somebody who's just starting off, right?
For sure. I mean, and that's what's really cool about it. I talked about the training mode a little bit, how you go to your team's practice facility and you train, but there's also like a weight room. So you do different weight room tasks and different, like agility drills and mind game things, and that'll help you get points. I mean, there's also the easy way out where you could pay, you could pay for the points to upgrade your player, but that's not the way I would go about it. You really got to, because it gets you better at the game as you're doing the training as well.
For sure. So definitely check out Kyle on otgbasketball.com. He does a great esports articles all the time. We'll definitely try to get him on the pod again too, to talk more esports when it starts to take off a little bit more. But Kyle, thank you for taking the time to do this today.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
If you don't hit the gym in real life, hit the gym in 2K. That's basically what I learned.
Oh yeah.
So another big shout out to Kyle for hopping on, talking 2K League, but another guest right now, Dominic Roney. He actually runs OTG's Facebook a little bit too. He writes a lot of Celtics stuff for OTG, but happy to have him on. How you doing, Dominic?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me.
So another Boston guy. So we're going to talk Celtics once again. And what we're going to talk about today is, should the Celtics make a splash move? Obviously, the Cavaliers look vulnerable right now. The Celtics have a treasure chest full of assets. So should the Celtics pull the trigger and make that splash move this year?
It really depends on what they do, like who they grab, because there's obviously they need a big man if they're gonna get anybody. I mean, Al Horford is kind of doing what they need, which is why I wouldn't be so quick to move him, as like obviously the rumor with Anthony Davis going around and all that, they were talking about sending Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown and Al Horford for Anthony Davis. And to me, I thought that trade, I mean, obviously Anthony Davis is a superstar. We know that. But sending away Tatum or Brown, who are 4 and 5 years younger, to me, I mean, they're future all-stars, most likely. Anthony Davis is still young and obviously will help now and a little bit into the future. But I think that Tatum and Brown will prove to be a little bit more effective down the road. So Anthony Davis in specifics, I wouldn't exactly do that trade if I were Danny Ainge. But I mean, a couple of the other people that are in the rumors are like Nerlens Noel and Derek Favors. I would potentially consider and entertain those options, because they're cheap contracts at the moment, at least, and they can fill that last spot for rebounding. But all in all, I do think that the Celtics don't need a trade, but they should definitely be entertaining all possibilities, especially, as you said, the vulnerability that the Cavs are in their current position. We should be maybe trying to take away some of the options that they could be going after.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Kory, what do you think? Do you think the Celtics should make that splash move? I know we mentioned this a little bit last week, so I kind of have an idea where you're going to go.
It's always tough because what are they going to do to free agency is always like an issue. Do you want to trade players when DeAndre Jordan could opt out? That's one of the guys they could go after. Nerlens Noel is a free agent also. Like certain guys, if they're available in free agency, don't trade for them now, especially big men. But an Anthony Davis, that's a once in a generation type player. There aren't an Anthony Davis is not, you don't find one of those every year. Like those guys are rare. He's already signed for a decently long-term deal. I do agree it's hard to pull a trigger on a trade that is obviously going to be surrounded by one of your young pieces, either Jaylen Brown or Jayson Tatum. But the issue with Al Horford on this roster is, and it's nothing to Al Horford's, discredit, because I love Al Horford. I'm a big Florida Gators guy, so I watched him win back-to-back titles in Florida. It's just the fact that he's a power forward in the wrong generation. In this generation, he has to play the 5, and too many times, he just can't stay up with those kind of centers. And as Jesse said in a couple segments ago, if the playoffs started today, the Celtics would play the Sixers. Joel Embiid series, and that would be a really tough series for the Celtics to win if Al Horford has to go against Joel Embiid for 7 games. But if you have an Anthony Davis or a DeAndre Jordan, not that they're going to limit Embiid, but they can give up more of a resistance against a guy like Joel Embiid. I don't know if Marc Gasol is, really on the market. Memphis is kind of confusing right now. I do think the Celtics will make a trade, but I'm not sure if it's going to be like a splash trade for someone who truly makes them a contender this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Anthony Davis is available, I'm willing to probably move Tatum or Brown, because I just believe Anthony Davis is a guy that you get and you pair him with Kyrie Irving. Like I mentioned on another pod, you're guaranteed a top 4 seed in the East for the next 10 years. And Anthony Davis in a Brad Stevens type system would be quite amazing. And if they're able to keep Horford in some scenario, that would be an amazing front court to have. It would probably be the best front court in the NBA. And then if they were able to get a guy like DeAndre, I think that helped. They would have to give up a lot less assets. The only thing with trying to get somebody in free agency, I don't believe they have cap space next year. So it might be easier for them to acquire talent now or trade-wise in the offseason. But Nerlens Noel, Derek Favors, like you mentioned, Dominic, are 2 guys I think they could have at an easy price. Noel hasn't even played. We're going to actually drop a OTG Marathon trade for Nerlens Noel to Boston a little bit today. So keep an eye out for that. But Derek Favors too, especially if Gobert's back and healthy, they might be willing to move him for an easy price.
Yeah.
One more thing I want to go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Dom. No, go ahead, Dom. Go ahead.
I was obviously very intrigued by the Noel and Favors. Both obviously there's cheaper contracts, because when Hayward comes back, we're not looking at very much cap at all. And Noel and Favors are both at a cheaper rate. The one thing that I've thought is that we haven't even seen Hayward in the system yet. That's why I think Danny Ainge is probably going to hold out before he makes any big moves, because he doesn't know exactly how Hayward's going to work with the system.
For sure. I mean, that's a big question too, is, Gordon Hayward coming back. Obviously, Anthony Davis, you would have to give up a lot of assets, and it doesn't even look like the Pelicans are probably going to trade him. So if they did make a small move, one advantage would be signing Nerlens Noel if he did fit well, and obviously the defensive numbers have been there. It's been a question about his work ethic off the court. So trading for him, I think he'd give you the availability to maybe re-sign him in the offseason. Then you get to kind of see what he could do in Boston this year if you want to keep him or not. And you could probably have him for a cheaper, maybe even cheaper than Derek Favors, especially because he's not playing at all.
Yeah, definitely.
Just sitting here thinking, the one issue with Al Horford is, because to get like DeAndre Jordan, you likely have to trade Al Horford or even Anthony Davis or Marc Gasol, because the contracts have to equal out.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
The problem is Al Horford, he's not he's so good. You know what I'm saying? He is so good. He passes, he rebounds, he scores. He does a little bit of everything. It's just the fact of the matter that he just doesn't do anything superly, the contract doesn't equal the kind of player that Al Horford is. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but it is a little bit too much money for Al Horford. And
I agree. I agree.
Without a true center, if you say you trade Al Horford, DeAndre Jordan, Marc Gasol, you really don't get better. You're kind of you're just washing out, because Al Horford does so many little things that don't show up on the scoreboard, and you're just kind of losing one thing to fix another thing. So I don't think any of these trades that involve Al Horford are going to be a successful move.
Yeah, unless
it's Anthony Davis.
Yeah, unless it's Anthony Davis, because like you said, Horford does a lot of small things. One thing that he does that people don't really notice is, he's such a big part of the Celtics offense and getting everything going, and it makes Kyrie's life a lot easier. Defensively, he offers some nice versatility as well. So, I mean, Horford's contract might be a little bit much, but I'm okay paying him, especially with all the little things. And it's just rare to find a big that can do all those things. I think if they do make a move, it'll probably be one of the smaller ones like Dominic mentioned. But Dom, thank you for hopping on. We'll definitely have you again in the future. And catch him on OTG's Facebook and his articles on otgbasketball.com. All right, shout out to Dominic for the first time hopping on the OTG podcast. But now we got a seasoned vet coming on, co-host of the JBT pod, also Brooklyn Buzz, our international friend, Jac Manuell. How you feeling, Jack?
Happy 100, boys. It's a momentous occasion. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, you're on the all-time starting five podcast for OTG.
I'm on the Rushmore. That's what I want to be.
Yeah.
So like we've been doing, everybody kind of gets a personal topic, knowing Jack does Brooklyn Buzz with myself, big Nets fans here. We're going to talk about the first time the Nets will win an NBA championship. When is that going to happen, guys?
All right. Now, I've actually been thinking about this for a couple of days now because there's, you go one step at a time. So you talk playoffs. Playoffs, we could almost have made it this season, probably with a healthy D-Lo. So we could say that might happen next season, barring any injuries and, circumstances go our way. Now, I think it's the season after I think we'll make the playoffs. Personally, I would rather hope us to get a decent draft pick next year and then make the playoffs with that sort of other franchise cornerstone, surround it with LeVert, D'Lo, all that sort of jargon. But I've got a sort of 4 to 6 year timeline because I've been looking on Real GM about like stats and like the age profile of certain championship teams. The Nets are one of the youngest teams in the league. They're at 25.3 years old, average age. They're far and away, still got a few more years. So many of their like foundational pieces, LeVert, Russell, they're all babies. They're all barely even 25, and they're not even close to 25. I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie's 24, but he's not really. Is he going to be like the lead guy in our franchise for years to come? That remains to be seen. But Nick, I'm interested to hear your thoughts from another Nets passionate perspective.
So I got this all planned out. As soon as you mentioned this to me, Jack, I was like super hyped. So I say 2019 will make the playoffs next year. I think the Nets can squeeze in. I think, like we've known, player development is huge with the squad. D'Lo's going to be healthy next year. He's going to take a jump. Karis LeVert, we know about that guy. Jared Allen's going to actually put some muscle on. We're going to get another first-round pick. It'll probably be someone solid. The Nets do a good job. They might sign like some key veteran in the offseason. A lot will also depend on if they trade DeMarre Carroll. If they trade DeMarre Carroll, it'll hurt them next year, not having him. But if they keep him, I think 2019 is the playoffs. Then I think 2020 squeeze into the playoffs again. They might move up a few seeds. Then in 2021, they're going to move into the second round of the playoffs. They're going to get that experience. Now in 2021 is when a lot of free agents become available. And a lot of the teams aren't going to be quite as good because they're going to get hit by the age route. So one guy, this is a dream scenario, so this is all fictional anyways. The Nets are going to sign Anthony Davis in 2021.
Whoa!
So in 2021, they'll sign Anthony Davis. 2022, we'll be looking at a roster. They'll have D'Lo, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen. Imagine Jared Allen and Anthony Davis as your two front court defensive players. Exactly. Then, small forward, maybe a first-round pick, somebody on there. I hope we keep Spencer Dinwiddie. He's one of our bench guys. And then maybe Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, I think, is better off on the bench. Maybe we get to keep Joe Harris, Jack's guy. Now moving into 2022, I thought this out really well. We're getting to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Bang!
So, you get Anthony Davis, you make a bang. But we don't have that experience. We still can't get over the hump. We probably lose to a team like Boston or Philadelphia. 2023 is the year that we win a championship, Jack.
Pencil it in, ladies and gents. Pencil it in. It's happening.
It's all fictional. If they sign Anthony Davis, that would be obviously the game changer. But
look, I think it's more likely than LeVar Ball spoke his son into reality, going to the Lakers. If he can somehow speak his other sons into Lakers uniforms, then I think we can speak this Nets championship into reality. I think. We look at our average, the average age of Cleveland right now. They're at 30 years old. A lot of the key teams, the Golden State Warriors at 28.8. All those sort of teams are at that 28 to 27 to 28 range. That's 4 years' time. Generally, when you see LeVert, and that's when the players start to peak. You look at James Harden right now, 28 29. Blake Griffin, 28 to 29. All these guys were born around the same year as me. And that's when you tend to peak as a basketball player. Your comfort in the league, your physical peak, so to speak. Hopefully there are no injuries, along the way that sort of derail that. But I certainly think that sort of 4-6 year window is a big opportunity. But And shout out to also to Murray Cal. I'm going to have probably a little bit of a piece in conjunction with some research from Nick about him possibly as a possible trade deadline, part of the OTG trade deadline bonanza.
And one more thing before I let Kory hop in here. 2021 is when the Nets will get all these ugly contracts off the books. Timothy Mozgov, goodbye. Darren Williams contract that is still slightly on the books. The Nets are paying him $5 million a year. Then we have to remember, Karis LeVert's going to be on a baby contract still, coming off probably his first rookie deal. Jared Allen, I think, will either still be on his rookie deal, coming off his first deal, and I think D'Lo will be on his first, max restricted free agent offer sheet. So it's the Nets will have a ton of money. So not only will they sign Anthony Davis, they'll be able to kind of fill out the team with some vets. Obviously, it's a dream scenario, but Kory, attack us.
I'm just letting you guys have your moment. You guys, hope and believe, brothers. Hope and believe. As a Pacers fan, I'm still waiting for my first title. So I guess if you guys wouldn't want it 4 to 6 years, I probably wouldn't want it in 12 years. I guess. Hopefully, we're soon after.
What's funny, Kory, actually, looking at your Pacers, their average age on Real GM, you're 0.1 year older than us as a roster. Victor Oladipo, Sabonis, Miles Turner. You've got quite a nice little core there.
Yeah, for
sure.
Okay,
how about this? I got something for you. So in 6 years, when the Nets are in the Eastern Conference Finals against either the Sixers or whatever, they're going to have to play a team from Indiana. All right, they're going to have to play a grown Miles Turner, a prime Victor Oladipo. Lance will be like 35 years old because they'll never get rid of him, but he'll be
play
there
10 minutes.
for emotional support. Yeah, and they'll go out and they'll sign a point guard. I'm not sure who, but they'll get some kind of point guard. Maybe they go out and they get like a Dennis Schroeder in the future or something. Just somebody who speeds up the tempo along with Oladipo and Turner. And we give you guys a 7-game series where one of us probably, goes to the NBA Finals. That's all I'm going to say. I'll keep it light.
One of us is no longer friends.
Well, I mean, I don't want to, that's a long time away, so we don't have to talk about that yet. That bridge is burnt. But we'll have some fun here. We'll say that in 5 to 6 years, the Pacers and Nets will be 2 top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference.
Look, I buy into that.
As crazy as it sounds, to be honest.
No.
Actually, I don't either. Now that I said
With
it, kind of sounds.
Like a grain of salt, obviously a lot of things have to happen and, people still have to take making jumps and stuff. But I think, you have to remember these teams that are so good now, like Cleveland, for example, there's a chance they lose LeBron. They're no longer going to be a good team. You look at a team like Miami. Do they have a lot of young talent? Not really. Does a team like Detroit strike me as somebody who's going to be really good? I think they're always going to stay around that same pack unless they add some type of star. So the only teams that I really see in my mind that are getting like super better in the next few years are Milwaukee has a chance to be really good.
Yeah.
Giannis is another guy who might be available free agent 2021. Just throwing that out there.
Well, I think
Boston and Philly.
I think I think Milwaukee's probably the sneaky one there, Nick. And by that stage, you'd hope that the Milwaukee front office and ownership would come to their senses and Jason Kidd would no longer be the coach. And, he's, off doing some, spilling cokes at, some local diner or some shit, trying to get calls as an old man out in Milwaukee. But I think, and you look at the stability right now, like Nate McMillan in Indiana transformed his whole coaching mentality, similar to Dwayne Casey in Toronto, and it's reaped the rewards. Coach Kenny is an absolute marvel when it comes to, getting the most out of his guys. If we continue to go down the youth route, take on some bad contracts here and there, get some assets out of it, and keep sort of building and building. And, I think the Nets will make a splash in that time. Brooklyn. Right. Go, Kory.
Go ahead. No, keep going. I thought of an idea. Keep going.
I was going to say the only thing that Brooklyn has over Indiana is that Brooklyn has the cachet of being New York. Like, Dwight Howard, we almost got him. Deron Williams, the whole big three from Boston. So there's that cachet there of Brooklyn that if there's a good team in New York, whether it's the Knicks or the Nets, then I think that there's that sort of free agent lure, similar to like an LA and a Chicago, whereas Indiana unfortunately doesn't have that. So they've sort of got to build within. And they've got that with like, a guy like an Oladipo, a guy like a Sabonis, and a guy like a Turner. And if they can get another draft pick and draft well, because we know Paul George, was barely top 10. So to get a guy like that and turn him into a superstar, there's no saying that they can't do that again.
Yeah, and all I was going to say is, just to piggyback off a little bit, is the fact that, like you said, the Nets are in New York. The Nets do have a big salary. They're considered a big market team, I believe, by the salary cap. Pacers are considered a small to medium market. And like you mentioned, with all those, Dwight Howard was linked to you guys for a while. You still got Darren Williams. You still got an old Kevin Garnett and a Paul Pierce off that. I'm sorry to bring up the terrible trade, but even still, there were still, Nets still go after, and they're always still linked to decently big name players. And I just have a little fun thing I was going to say. In the next 6 years, these are my 8 playoff teams. So I have Sixers, Boston, Chicago, Knicks, Nets, and then Bucks, Heat. Those are my playoff teams 6 years from now. Those 8.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely is an interesting one. The only people who might have something to say about that is Washington, but they might end up losing some of their players because things aren't working out there. But I think just before we get out of here with Jack, I think he made a great point. The fact that it'll help the Nets so much, if they can prove they're a decent playoff team and get in the playoffs 2 consecutive years, 2021 comes, they have a ton of cap. Being in New York City, that wonderful practice facility they just built, I think will give them a prime time target for free agents to come. And that'll be the first time the Nets can say that. And I don't know how long. I don't even know if you ever can say the Nets were a prime time free agent target, but Sean Marks and Kenny Atkinson might make that happen in 2021. Jack, thank you for hopping on. And as always, you can listen to Jack on the JBT Pod, Brooklyn Buzz, and he's on the NBA Outlet all the time. Thank you, Jack, as always.
Thank you, lads. Happy 100.
Later, Jackie boy.
So shout out to Jack. Like I said, you can check him out on the OTG Podcast Network, but bringing on our next guest, new member of the OTG family, Preston Ellis. He does the Bird Calls podcast and Do You Believe in Magic? What's up, Preston?
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
Cool. That's my bird call.
Sounds good. Sounds just right. You belong on our pod, sir.
But we're bringing Preston on to talk Pelicans. Obviously, the Pelicans have been in the news a little bit more. Anthony Davis had that super hot stretch. They had some big wins against Boston. But they're a team that we've talked about on this podcast. I'm sure, Preston, you talked about on your pod too, is they're kind of a scary playoff matchup when you have a DeMarcus Cousins, Anthony Davis. So what can we expect from the Pelicans around the trade deadline? Are they going to be active, try to add, somebody to get them in a more win now mode?
They're definitely in a desperate mode right now. As many even fans who follow the national media can say at this point is that Dell Demps and Alvin Gentry are further on the hot seat than pretty much any coach or general manager not named Frank Vogel and Jeff Weltman. Although those guys are pretty new over there, that's just a reference to Do You Believe in Magic? But everybody's struggling in New Orleans with what's going on. Of course, you've got like 2 all-star starters, which has been wonderful for the city. If you listen to the podcast, there's a lot of despair involved in the highs and lows of defeating teams like the Trailblazers, the Knicks, and the most recently the Boston Celtics, in pretty decisive fashion or in an overtime thriller, some of these matchups. And then we followed that 3-game win streak with inexplicably putting up 10 points in the third quarter to the Atlanta Hawks, one of the teams with the worst record in the NBA. And a lot of that is due to, as many fans will know, DeMarcus Cousins kind of taking games off. He's had 5 or more turnovers in 7 consecutive games, and you guys have seen the highlights from guys like Justin Ferrier on the Ringer. If he doesn't get a call go his way, or if he gets rejected on the offensive side of the floor, sometimes he let's say he takes his sweet time getting back on defense, and it can lead to second chance opportunities for opponents. And a lot of this can be attitude, and that's where a lot of people want to point to, is that DeMarcus and Anthony Davis, potentially have attitude problems. But more than that, if you really look into it, these guys lead the league in minutes. They're 11th and 12th right now, respectively. And that number would be higher, except for some blowouts earlier in the year where those guys got to leave the game a little bit earlier. In addition to that, Anthony Davis has left a lot of games very early. In the 3 last wins, he had 41, 44, and 50 minutes played. So these guys are just playing too much basketball, and the Pelicans are desperate at this point for depth. Right now, they're sporting 4 guys who have been resting these guys: Dante Cunningham, Ian Clark, Jameer Nelson, and Darius Miller. And all of these guys' numbers have dropped off a cliff this month. These guys are shooting 17, 16, 27, and 37% from 3, respectively.
Whoa.
And that 37% sounds really good, except that it's Darius Miller, who was leading the league in three-point shooting just, I think, 3 weeks ago at 56%. So he's fallen off a cliff either. And it's hard to point to exactly what the problem is. But one thing you can for sure point to is the guys Drew Holiday, who's 3rd in the league in minutes played right now. Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins are having trouble buying in 48 minutes per game against a team like against the Atlanta Hawks, and Dell Demps is going to make a move. He's always active at the trade line. Everybody knows about the DeMarcus Cousins trade last year. 2 years before that, it was Quincy Pondexter and Omar Ashik. He's always active in picking up these 10-day contracts, but this year he can't do 10-day contracts because the Pelicans are just $1 million away from the dead cap, meaning they have absolutely no flexibility. All their 15 guys are guaranteed, so they can't just cut a guy and pick up another guy. They've got a $2.4 million disabled player exception for the Alexis Ajinça injury. A lot of people don't know that the Pelicans have had four or more guys out every day of the regular season since the season started. Originally, it was Rajon Rondo with I'm trying to think of what it was, but he was out for 6 weeks. I want to say it was hernia surgery. I should know that. I'll look up that.
It was. I believe it was actually. That was a sports hernia.
Yeah. And then Solomon Hill, 6 to 8 months with the torn hamstring. Frank Jackson broke his foot again, the same foot that he played on all year with a stress fracture in his freshman year at Duke. On top of Alexis Ajinça and Omar Ashik, who just recently is back from Crohn's disease, and he's just starting to put back more weight. So the Pelicans are desperate. Everybody's on the hot seat. Everybody wants Boogie back. Everybody's afraid of Anthony Davis's interview with Adrian Wojnarowski, just saying that he doesn't owe anybody loyalty, but with that being said, he wants to be here, but he wants to win. He mentioned it 22 times in the article. So they are going to make a move. What that move is, we don't know. They've been rumored in trades involving Reggie Jackson earlier in the year, although I think that was prompted from the Magic. Every week it seems that somebody's interested in Reggie Jackson. It's probably just the Pistons trying to unload him, but they were rumored to be interested in Andrew Bogut, one of the 8 teams, in Evan Fournier from the Magic. They would have to unload something like an Etuan Moore and Alexis Ajinça and probably give up a first-round pick. Jonathan Simmons is another guy they could potentially target. A lot of teams are going to come after T.J. Warren. He doesn't get enough credit for how good he's been, and he just locked up a pretty cap-friendly deal. I think it's somewhere around 4 years and $50 million. So somebody's going to come after him if the Phoenix Suns make him available, and I'm sure that they will, being how desperate they are for, just rebuilding and adding talent, and they could certainly use that flexibility, but they're not going to give him away for anything. So the Pelicans are going to have to unload first-round picks to get him. So there's going to be a lot of activity in the next 2 weeks, and you can expect the Pelicans to be buyers, and you can expect the Orlando Magic to be sellers, and that's another podcast I do, and they have already been rumored to be shopping Evan Fournier, Elfrid Payton, and Mario Hezonja, and if they can get Vucevic back, you better believe they're going to unload him too.
Are there any guys, Preston, that you're looking at in particular for the Pelicans to go after? Is there anyone that sticks out?
A few names I also heard that I might throw out there real quick to get in there. Damari Carroll, Marvin Williams, and Nick Batum, Rodney Hood, I think are all guys the Pelicans might consider as well. Definitely.
The problem with Charlotte and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist and Nicholas Batum is not the interest level in those players and Marvin Williams.
Contract.
It's the contracts. Who the Pelicans have to unload Omar Ashik and Alexis Ajinça to get any of these guys, and nobody in the NBA wants to take them right now. But come next year, those guys are going to be valuable trade chips because they're going to provide salary cap relief. There it is for next offseason, and a lot of teams are going to want that so that they can chase the bigger name free agents that are going to be available next year. Of course, this year is promising to be a bit quieter with just like Paul George and DeMarcus Cousins being the headliners. But next year, there's going to be a lot more on the table on top of Chris Paul and LeBron James. But not a lot of teams are probably going to be in the mix for those two guys. But they will be valuable in the future. They're not right now, which means the Pelicans are probably going to have to unload 2 first-round picks. And I don't think Mickey Loomis, the vice president or president of basketball operations, and Tom Benson, the owner of the New Orleans Saints and the New Orleans Pelicans, are going to give Dell Demps that kind of leeway. As most people know, the Pelicans don't have a first-round pick currently on the roster drafted by the New Orleans Pelicans other than Anthony Davis, and that was all the way back in 2012. So it's going to be hard for Dell Demps to convince these guys to give up multiple draft picks to send off somebody like Omar Ashik, especially when they're so close to being able to stretch him. It's hard to stretch him right now with 3 years and $33 million left on his deal. But if they can just get to this offseason and 2 years and $22 million, that final season is only partially guaranteed at $3 million. So it's a bit difficult to explain, but basically they can't stretch him now. But once they get to the offseason, it'll seem a lot more palatable. So I just don't think that Demps will will have the ability to give out 2 first-round picks, but giving out 1 first-round pick, being creative and giving away some combination of like Check Diallo and Dante Cunningham or something. Dante Cunningham, of course, is on a 1-year deal, providing some team with salary cap relief if they want to get rid of somebody like a Shelvin Mack. Just if they want to get rid of future money like DJ Augustin or something like that, that could definitely. But you're absolutely right. DeMarre Carroll is somebody who has been on the tips of most Pelicans fans' tongues. But the problem with DeMarre Carroll is that we have somebody just like him in Solomon Hill potentially coming back in a month. So like you said, they do need scoring from somebody like Rodney Hood. They need a big point guard with size. Rajon Rondo has been playing himself out of the rotation lately. He's been tremendous offensively at times, especially against the Boston Celtics. When you put him up against Kyrie Irving, he did a really admirable job, but it's just difficult to get him buy-in on the defensive end of the floor. So he's played himself out of crunch time. Ian Clark's been taking a lot of his minutes, so they could definitely use a big-bodied point guard who could play some defense, and they could definitely use a big 4 or a big 5 like a Greg Monroe if he ever manages to get himself bought out from the Phoenix Sun. That could definitely be somebody that the Pelicans could potentially target, or like I said, like an Andrew Bogut type.
Yeah, and then they could take advantage of that disabled player exception if they wanted to sign one of the guys that do get cut. So that'd definitely be some. So Pelicans are a team that I'm definitely keeping an eye on because I'm intrigued by them with the Anthony Davis-DeMarcus Cousins combo when it comes playoff time. Preston, thank you for hopping on. And like I said, you can check out Preston on The Bird Calls and Do You Believe in Magic, both on the OTG Podcast Network. So check that out. Give Preston some love.
Excited to be on here. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Preston.
Shout out to Preston for hopping on. He's always a great guest to talk Pelicans or Magic, but bringing on one of my favorite guests on the NBA outlet, lead editor for OTG, a host of the Shuttleworth Initiative pod on the OTG Podcast Network, my guy, Jay Christian. What's up, Jay?
Yo, what's up? I feel like Busta Rhymes at the end of that song hit him high from Space Jam. I'm just like, rah, ready to just talk crazy shit on this thing, right?
Let's go.
Keep it at 100 for the final segment.
So final segment, we saved some heat for the last one. We're going to talk all-star starters. Obviously, that's been hype. And this year, they're doing the draft, doing the all-star game a little different. They're doing a draft. So we have 2 captains, LeBron James and Steph Curry. You know, the player pools, Anthony Davis, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, DeMarcus Cousins, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, and DeMar DeRozan. For the purpose of this draft, Kory is going to be LeBron James, and Jay is going to be Steph Curry.
There you go.
I hate Curry, and I hate the Warriors, so this was completely biased that I'm LeBron James.
Fresh off my water ad for water, that I was selling you H2O, folks, a Brita filter. That's who I am, Steph Curry, baby. Under Armour sneaks and water. That's right, water. My homeboy, you know what he slings? Chocolate milk and water. That's what we do in the backcourt.
And like speed. Trifecta.
Like speed. So I made those Air Nurses 7s because I love feet. Sorry.
This is guaranteed the best segment of the day, but Kory, start us off. Who you got with your first pick?
Well, for my first pick, I'm going with the man and the legend, Kevin Durant.
Wow.
I'm stealing Curry's teammate because I don't want to get a 3 drained in my face.
Oh, man. All right.
Steph?
Right off the board. So I'm going with this empire keeps growing. The battleship, or the Death Star, rather, gets bigger and bigger. And I know you guys are on the internet. I know basketball Twitter knows where we're going with this. Our next pickup is Anthony Davis. He's going to be in a Golden State Warriors uniform. So we start the recruiting trip early. So I'm taking Anthony Davis. A couple years ago, we got Kevin Durant right after the finals. My boy Draymond was on the line with Kevin in the parking lot of Oracle. We see what happened there. I'm going to Anthony Davis immediately, and he's the next piece of this Golden State puzzle, and it all starts with this recruiting trip this weekend.
Yeah, I figured you were going to take AD, so I'm going to get the guy who fears no one, Joel Embiid, because he doesn't care if you have Anthony Davis, and he's prepared to take that big man on.
All right. Okay. I can respect that. I'm going to go this is tough. Joel Embiid, man. All right. I got a long game in mind here, so I'm going to go James Harden. Okay. Because I'm going to whisper some verses in his ear from the good book, let him know that when the Western Conference Finals roll up, that's a sweep, baby, gentleman's sweep at worst. So I'm keeping my friends close and my enemies closer. Harden's going to be on my squad. I might freeze him out with The Rock. Who knows? A la Jordan and Isaiah. But I got Harden. I'm taking him.
I was hoping you were going to take him because then now I get more length to my team and I get Antetokounmpo. So we're just building size. We're just a bunch
I
of
was about to say,
tall,
just a bunch of
mean
pterodactyls just running
Yeah.
around. Yeah, no, I got
guys. We're all
you.
about wingspans.
It's all about the wingspan. Okay, so I need a big and a bigger big than what I got. Sorry, is DeMarcus still on the board?
Yeah, DeMarcus
Yeah.
is on the board.
Taking DeMarcus. I'm taking Boogie Cousins again. There are rumblings out there. This is sort of in the vein of the Harden pick. There are rumblings that somehow, some way, DeMarcus ends up in a Laker uniform, and that's going to help him and LeBron and PG. I don't know how they're going to make the math work with Magic Johnson running the cap, but assuming DeMarcus gets in a Lakers uniform, I'm going to let him know as well. Look, man, might as well stay in New Orleans. You're wasting your time. Don't go pay more taxes in California to catch that ass whipping in the playoffs every year. So, and we do need a big. We do need a big. I mean, we do need a big. We got Anthony Davis, but we'll get DeMarcus on board as well.
You're going with chemistry. I like it. It's a good play. You got a little chemistry down low. And I do want to say, though, DeMarcus Cousins with Lonzo Ball could be really fun in the Lakers. Just wanted to throw that out there. So now I'm stuck, right?
Yes.
So now I got to either pick the guy who broke my heart, Kyrie, or DeMar DeRozan.
Yes.
And it's tough. Do I want someone? Yeah. I'm picking Kyrie.
Oh,
I'm gonna forgive him. He's gonna come on the squad, and we're gonna beat Curry just because I don't like Curry. So it's all about beating Curry. That's all this is about.
One more time together.
Yeah. So I'm picking Kyrie.
that was part of my master plan. This is how we do it, light years ahead in the Bay Area, okay? Because I wanted you to have Kyrie, because I think it's the ultimate catch-22 for you. Because if Kyrie does his thing in the All-Star game, it just further proves our point. Like, yeah, man, you ran him out of town, and this is the one time that when running somebody out of town, it's come back to bite you in the ass. You're carrying Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder's your support. You're looking to Kyle Korver to come in and be the second banana. I forgot Kevin Love's on the squad at times. So now you have to play with Kyrie again and watch Kyrie shine. And here's the problem. Either Kyrie sucks and you guys get into it and you're like, man, this is why I hate this dude. Or he even crosses me up again, a la, Game 7 on the finals a couple years ago. And Kyrie still, because say what you will, a lot of people, especially when LeBron leaves this summer, history's going to be rewritten. Kyrie's the one who hit that shot, not LeBron James, right? Yeah, as great as that block was on Iggy, it was Kevin Love on the stop on Curry, or myself, excuse me, and then it was Kyrie that hit the shot. So if Kyrie has a monster All-Star game and leads the East to victory, or LeBron squad to victory, that's just a painful reminder that maybe Kyrie was the man up in that piece in Northeast Ohio. Maybe it wasn't LeBron. I'm just saying.
Well, being LeBron James and being the man I am and wanting everyone to know that I don't hold bad blood, this is simply a PR stunt. I just want you all to think that everything's golden and that we are cool. And then when we play the Celtics at the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm going to show him how bad and mean my chase down blocks are.
So, and by the way, I guess I have DeMar DeRozan, which is he's having a great year. I don't know. I'm not enthused about it. We got him. He's here. I don't know what else to say. We need 5. I've been in many situations where we need 5. They won't. So you got to start the game with 5. We can finish with 4, but you got to jump it with 5. So, DeMar, here it is. Come on over. Let me teach you how to be a champion. Let me show you. But also a little long game here too. Maybe some of that championship pedigree rubs off on DeMar. He takes it back to the Eastern Conference in the playoffs. And maybe I'm not looking at a motivated LeBron James in the finals. Maybe I'm looking at, Kyle Lowry trying to keep up with me, right, for 4 quarters. So, maybe there's a little long game in that too. Like I said, light years ahead, man. Light years ahead.
Oh, that'd be your worst nightmare, wouldn't it? Seeing Kyle Lowry across the 4 games.
Only at the taco stand near the stadium.
Yeah. Oh, damn.
Straight fire, baby. We slang water and chocolate milk. What did I tell you? Not regular milk, chocolate milk. My boy Trey slangs chocolate milk.
You're chocolate wasted.
There you go. A Brita filter, man. Got me leaning. So.
All right. Who wins the game?
Shit. It's obvious, right? Who wins the game. This is all, fun and games. But I think LeBron is just going to be too tight, man, because he's going to have these pterodactyls out there on the wings and look around and see maybe who's my boy GM Kobe in the stands and be like, shit, this is what we need. We don't need 5'9" guards with hip problems. We need wingspan. We need long guys out here running the break, being up and, making me look better as I transition to the point 4 position. And I think LeBron's just going to be tight the whole game, just wondering what could have been, right? So I think we win because we're just carefree, man. we win, we don't win, who gives a shit? We're winning the next 7 NBA championships. So I mean, you know, we're going to play with the fluidity and just the confidence and the calm that you get from a championship pedigree. So it's us by 20 maybe.
See, my whole game plan was, you know, I wanted length. Obviously, I got the length. I got the characters. You know, I got Kevin Durant. He's not going to kill me this game, thank God. I got Antetokounmpo. Really, I'm LeBron, and there's no one who can guard me now. Who's Harden's going to guard me? No thanks. DeRozan, goodbye. Laughing my ass off. And then, I mean, yes, Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins, they can get their baskets, but we all know DeMarcus Cousins, who doesn't even play, you know, 48 minutes hard in an NBA game. He's not going to play 48 minutes hard in an All-Star game. So you guys have a dud, and you know, we're looking for the bench unit to be strong too.
Speaking of the bench, guess who we got sitting courtside? Rihanna. There you go.
Oh my God. I had Rihanna choke way in too.
Sipping chocolate milk on the sidelines. What's up, Embiid?
Yep. Embiid already denied her. He doesn't even want her anymore.
Yeah,
he's on
that's
what's up, LeBron? What's up, LeBron? There's a little talk about that having some history with those two.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. LeBron, Savannah's going to be right behind Rihanna, so LeBron. I take it back. We win by 25. Never mind. That's going to be tight between Rihanna and Savannah and some IG model all sitting in the same row. LeBron will be mad tight for that game.
IG model. Oh shit!
We got girl that on the sidelines with.
Who's that? The Instagram model that Porzingis likes photos of. That's gonna be the third one. Jenna something.
Your best chance, LeBron. You got Ayesha sitting courtside with sandals.
There you go.
Curry just licking his lips running out.
Before we get in trouble, I think we should get out of here. Jay. Great segment. Thank you for hopping on. As always, thank you for everything you do for OTG. You can listen to Jay on the Shuttleworth Initiative. He'll definitely be back on the NBA outlet, you know, and check him out. And thank you for hopping on again.
No problem, guys. Always fun. Good job. 100, baby.
And that's how we keep it 100.
Right.
I don't think you can keep it 100 any way better.
And that's the perfect way to end the show. As always, thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for all the support for the NBA outlet, OTGbasketball.com. You know, the staff, the listeners, the readers, the people who hate us, you know, everybody who put something into the site. Appreciate that. You can listen to us, Blog Talk, iTunes, OTGbasketball.com. Follow us on Twitter at OTGbasketball. You can follow all of us on Twitter as well, OTGNick, Kwald Hoops. And, Jay, what's your Twitter handle?
At JChris206, baby.
Knew I would get the numbers wrong, but definitely follow us all. Check out OTG and let us know what you think. Just want to squeeze in a quick shout out for the OTG staff and my co-host Kory Waldron, taking all the time to record these pods, preparation. You know, God bless, and looking forward to the future.